Right now I'm in the process of making a video that's around 40 minutes, hopefully at the maximum. A review style video on an anime, and I imagine that's going to take a couple more weeks. Hopefully no more than 3, because God, I've been dragging this one out for a while now. I really want to make content on this channel, but making review style content that has a lot of passion and editing in that I haven't really done before is a learning experience that's currently been both a challenging yet almost fun process that I hope will be worthwhile in the end, enjoyed by both people that know me and don't. But until that video drops though, I wanted to get something out along the way that isn't as long, and it turns out there's a lot of media that I have experienced over the past few months, from movies, shows, anime, cartoons to games. Some shows, movies, and whatnots I have more to say on, which will probably take maybe a few minutes, but there are some shows and whatnot that I don't really have too much to say on, so there's probably going to be a bit of a inconsistent length per thing that I talk about here, and I hope you enjoy that. I may go into spoiler talk for some things, but I'm going to try my best to keep it to a minimum so I'm not pausing to say, yeah, so here's the spoiler segment, you know what I mean, so just be wary of that. But I probably am going to mention when I do get into spoiler talk so you can pause and then fast forward and whatnot. Also, please know you do not have to agree with my opinions. I am not telling you to, so please don't get riled up when I say, I thought this thing was total dog shit, and then you be like, but actually I thought it was a fine piece of art and it was a cinematic masterpiece. Like, bro, if you liked it, fine. I'm not telling you to not like it. If anything, that's cool. I kind of wish I enjoyed it too, because then it would have meant that I didn't have a bad time. Okay? It's not a personal offense. Stop it. Stop. Okay? And with that, let's get into this. Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. I haven't really had much experience with the Gundam franchise. It's only recently that I've started to get into it with the Gundam Build series. Fighters, Fighters Try, and Divers. And I thought those were pretty good, although Divers had some weird plot issues that I don't think I'm gonna get into here. And I recognize that the Build series isn't representative of the overall franchise, as it's basically just a celebration series set in like an alternate universe where Gundam is an in-universe IP property. Like, people go out and buy Gunpla from the store and then smash them against each other in a virtual game kind of shit. So The Witch from Mercury is basically my first full-fledged entry point into the Gundam series, with like an asterisk on top that's like, well, I guess, but not really, kind of thing. And The Witch from Mercury is really good. I did not feel alienated at all watching it as like my first proper Gundam show. I was hooked from the prologue, and I immediately started binging the episodes that were out at the time. The series is about like politics set in like a space high school. Whenever the egotistical bratty rich kids get into some kind of argument, instead of talking it out, they fight with mechs, and whoever wins their battle gets their part of the deal. It's very cheesy and dumb, but it's very cool, and all the action scenes are just eye candy. I don't think there's any CGI, but if there is, it is really well hidden. It all looks 2D animated. It's so good. The cast is fun. There's a lot of neat side characters, and there's this nice relationship between two characters that gets really endearing by the end of the series when you see how they develop. It's really good, and I'm kind of doing it a disservice by skimming over the details, but the main character ends up joining the school, and she has this cool, awesome Gundam mech suit thing. Hijinks ensue, lot of drama. I'm doing it a big disservice. I would recommend watching that prologue, and if you are intrigued by the end of it, stick around, because it gets really fucking good by the end. You're probably gonna be like, well, you know, I like the prologue, but this episode, I'm not feeling it. It gets so fucking good. You have to stick through it. That's all I'm gonna say. Watch the prologue if it sounds at all intriguing. It is a good entry point, trust me. Kingsman: The Golden Circle shits all over the first film, and there's barely anything good in The Golden Circle. I'm trying to think of like, well, you know, it was awful, but there was this one thing, and honestly, I struggle to think of anything. I guess the statesman concept was cool. Could have been cool to have a spin-off all about the statesman. Unfortunately, this movie was just awful. I feel bad for all the actors that were there, especially the ones that had their characters killed off. Pedro Pascal was wasted on this. It was just so bad, and I hate it. It's not even so bad it's funny, it's just plain bad. And if Kingsman: The Secret Service is one of your favorite films, do not watch this out of morbid curiosity. It is just awful. Star Wars: A New Hope is pretty good. I don't have too many thoughts, to be honest. it was just a fun time. The only complaint I can really think of is that they kill off Luke's parental figures and they never like bring it back up ever again. And if they do, which I'm like pretty sure they don't, but if they do, it just, there was no impact. It's just like, well, that happened. Time to move on to the plot. It was a good film. I'm surprised it still holds up. I was going to do this chronologically, but I figured, you know, I'll just clump them all together. So I'm not talking about Star Wars and then another thing and then jumping back to Star Wars. You know, it'll be easier. Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Across the trilogy, I loved R2-D2 and C-3PO. R2-D2 and C-3PO. They're consistently funny, and I loved how they become to tolerate each other as the series went on, to liking each other as friends. It was nice. They were consistently funny. The Empire Strikes Back is my favorite of the trilogy, which I wasn't expecting. I figured the last movie would be, considering the big climax kind of thing going on with that one. But yeah, no, The Empire Strikes Back was my favorite, oddly enough. But apparently that's like the common opinion, or so that's what I've heard, which is strange. I usually hear that when it's like, you know, a 3-act structure, like the second part isn't going to be the best part kind of thing. But yeah, it's funny how that works out. I'm not too sure what it is about the second film that I like out of the bunch. I definitely loved the Yoda stuff. that was something I really enjoyed. I loved the Yoda. Little guy, funny little guy. The third film I thought I'd enjoy out the most, but actually I had quite a few issues with it. And funnily enough, it's none of the Ewok stuff. As a matter of fact, I love the Ewoks. I don't know if that's a hot take or like a rare opinion, but like oh my god, that was like the best part of the film, I'm not gonna lie. The biggest one though is that I'm not too sure what the point of the whole like redeem dad thing was about. Like I'm not opposed to it, I just kind of wish they handled it better. The whole thing is like, oh, it's bad to let people die and just the good thing to let people turn to the good side, like that kind of shit. But like, I think we're only supposed to care because, oh, it's Luke's dad. That's why he's supposed to care. Luke, this dude blew up a planet like a movie ago or so. And I'm pretty sure he's probably killed a bunch more people. Pretty sure he kills one of his subordinates in this film, or maybe it was like a last one. But yeah, it's hard for me to care when he is literally an awful human being. I kind of wish in the movie Luke said to someone like, yeah, I need to go to the thingy and I need to redeem my father. I need to redeem Darth Vader, like whatever. Like have a scene and someone's like, that's stupid. But why would you do that? And he's like, because I feel in my heart it's the right thing to do. And it's like, well, if that's what you want to do, go and do it. And it's like, alright, so the movie acknowledges it's kind of fucking dumb. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to it that way. Morally questionable kind of thing. But like, the way it is, I just, by no means did it ruin the movie, but it definitely put a little bit of a damper note on it. Nevertheless, I still do enjoy the whole like, I am your father thing from the second film. That was a great iconic scene. And then we get the scene in the third film where Luke redeems his father and Darth throws dude into the thing and kills him. I'm told I retconned that. But great film nevertheless. Again, I'm surprised that the first and the second and third film hold up even after these years. The visual effects are great. I think I watched it like with the added visuals, the George Lucas visual effect shit, but I didn't care. I looked over it and it was good. I enjoyed it. And while I'm talking about Star Wars, might as well just get this out of the way. The Phantom Menace, holy shit, that wasn't bad. Why is everyone saying this sucks? I think it's like a consistent thing that everyone's like, Jar Jar Binks is the most insufferable little shit that deserves to be taken out back. And but I laughed at the jokes. Like, I remember like the one scene where it looks like they're about to do a fart joke, and I'm like, oh, is Jar Jar gonna fart? And it's like, it's not even Jar Jar, it's like someone else, and he's reacting to it. He's like, ew. And I'm like, oh my god, they made him likable. The funny thing about the character is that he's not even competent, he's just a bumbling buffoon. And the funniest thing is he's just dragged along with these heroes. He's just like, here, it's a random NPC kind of like character, like, yeah, I can help, but he's literally just out of his league kind of thing, which makes him endearing. Maybe I'm just crazy. That's probably it. But yeah, I liked him. And you know, the other characters too. I do admit, I think the pacing was a bit off. We cut back to here, there, here, and then. Like, wait. Can you streamline this down a bit? Because we're kind of moving all over the place. Besides that, a really weird note that I didn't like was how they freed Anakin, but they don't free his mother. It's kind of like a callback to how Luke was, you know, he had to leave and his parents, he like never met them again. I feel like that's what they're going for, but really, you're just gonna leave his mum on the fucking desert slave planet? You're not gonna free her? You know, you're kind of a cunt. That's so fucked. That's so fucked up. This dude, it's so like, you are a powerful dude. You can just cut through the slave owner. It's like, fuck the law. What, you like slavery? It's like, oh, that's a weird. You know what? It's a fucking common thing in anime. It's here as well. It's just like, dude, fuck the rules. Stupid. Could have been killed off late in a later movie and would have made it for like an emotional kind of moment. But yep, no, apparently this is the last time we see her as well. I have not seen the second or third film. I wonder how, like, you know, things play out. I kind of have a vague knowledge of what happens in the later films through memes and shit. For the most part, I don't know all the details, so it's going to be interesting how we get from this movie to the big climax of that third one. I think the Darth Maul fight could have been tightened up a bit as it starts to get really drawn out in an almost comedic kind of way. Besides that, I noticed that a lot of the aliens in this film are based upon real-world accents in a stereotypical kind of way, possibly in an offensive kind of way. It's kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of weird. None of like the humans are exaggerated. It's just the aliens, and it's like, you know, that feels kind of racist. So yeah, that's it. I wonder how this movie is like on a rewatch. I feel like it's one of those things where on a rewatch it will make it better or worse. So if I ever revisit these films, I wonder what my opinion will be on the Phantom Menace. So yeah, I don't think it was that bad. Jar Jar was not the worst thing about that film. I thought it was pretty good, if a little bit flawed. My senpai is annoying. There's just something so fun about height difference. You got a pair where one's taller than the other, one's shorter than the other. It's just so cute. I love it and I need more of it, even if it's not canon. I just want the visuals because, oh my god, I live for this now. It's so good. And I regret not watching this anime sooner. I regret putting it on the side and leaving it for later because it is just height difference, the anime. The series takes place in this work office, following the main two characters Futaba Igarashi, who's a short, natural, green-haired, easily flustered, irritated adult woman who's new to the job. Because of her height, she's usually underestimated and treated as a child, and she is annoyed every time, and it is adorable. The second main character is Harumi Takeda, this Chris Redfield-looking ass guy who is Futaba's senpai, and he does his best to look after her, while occasionally teasing her. You could probably connect the dots as to why the title is the way it is. The series mostly revolves around their hijinks, their petty squabbles, and wholesome dynamic. The series is mostly a comedy, however there are sprinkles of romance, though it doesn't go the whole way as I think one would expect, and it's not in the areas you might think. Sometimes there's B-plots with the co-workers Toka Sakurai and Sauta Kazama. I didn't really care for them at the start, but over the course of the series I grew really fond of them, and I thought they were really endearing, and I was surprised to be sure. On the other hand though, Natsumi Kurobe and Yuto Sakurai were questionable inclusions. I really did not like their stuff. There's a bit of an age gap, mental gap, and I think it's supposed to be cute, but I don't think they executed it well, at least in the anime. I've heard it's done better in the manga. I have not read the manga, so I'm not sure, but let me say that after like their first character introductions when they met each other and became a reoccurring pair, and nobody like at all questioned their dynamic, I felt a little bit uncomfortable, which is a shame because oh my fucking god, this would be a 10 out of 10 if they were just not here. But nevertheless, I am happy I watched this, and I really hope this gets a season 2, and I hope that season 2, if ever happens, their relationship is swept under the rug or not made as creepy somehow. But even with that one issue I have with it, this is one of the best anime comedy romances I've ever seen, and it is a must recommend to anyone that likes height difference. And I would still recommend this even if you just like slice of life comedy romances. Little hiccup with one pairing, but besides that little weird corner of the anime, it has become one of my favorite shows in a while, and I love that OP. That OP is beautiful. Definitely would say check that out. Make sure it's not the edited 4K 60 FPS version. Sonic IDW Scrapnik Island. You can listen to my full thoughts over here, but if you want a too long didn't read version, I think it is pretty good. Probably one of the few good things to come out of Sonic IDW, in my opinion. I don't like saying that, but like, Sonic fans don't know what an opinion is apparently, so I have to specify that, which is stupid. I think Daniel Barnes did a great job. I don't think it was perfect by any means. There was quite a few things that I'm like, wait, what, and why, and when? There was a few things where I'm like, this could have been set up properly here, or this could have been executed better, or this wasn't capitalized on, or this character wasn't as fleshed out. Like, little itty bitty things that kind of pile up, but there's nothing overwhelmingly awful about it, which I could say about prior issues. I guess to put it in other words, it's less bad than everything that came before, which makes it good. That might come off harsh, but it's a positive, okay? I look forward to seeing where Daniel Barnes goes from here. I really hope this is a step in the right direction, and I hope he improves from here, because I have never been more hopeful and positive towards IDW since, I don't know, the first issue when I had an open mind. Inferno Cop. Inferno Cop is a cinematic masterpiece with stunning animation that will rival even that of UFO Table, and is a must-watch to any. Hyperbola aside, Inferno Cop is made by Trigger, who is a pretty hit-or-miss studio, if you ask me. And Inferno Cop is about a cop who is on fire, and he tries to enact justice, usually messing things up along the way somehow. And spiraling into more absurd situations. It does not take it seriously at all. It's just a goofy show that I think only the likes of Studio Trigger could make. The animation is just PNGs moving across the screen with just lol random humor, and I'm gonna be honest, it is amazing, and I'm shocked as to why we haven't gotten 10 seasons of this by now. There's supposed to be a second season, and it's not out yet, and it's like, what's going on? Come on, bring it out. It's dumb fun that knows what it is, and it's just a stupid good time. The comedy might be an acquired taste, but if it is your taste, it will be really fun for you. They even made a spin-off law show. They didn't need to do that. No, it's a 10 out of 10. It's great. We need it. We need more seasons of this. Unironically. School of Rock. I'm a really big Jack Black fan. I love most of his movies. Even some of the movies he starred in that aren't as good, dare say pretty bad, he usually lifts them up just a smidge with his presence. He's great. I love him. And I've never seen School of Rock before, which surprised me because apparently it's one of those films that like a lot of people have seen when they're like kids. At least that's what I've heard. And I got kind of worried going into this because I thought it would be one of those talking down to the audience type of films where it just babies the audience and it's, you know, it's not great. It was the opposite of that. It was really good. I had a great time with it. Plot following Dewey, played by Jack Black, after he gets kicked out of his rock band. Needing to pay rent, he takes the job of a substitute teacher that his roommate was supposed to have and tries to turn his classroom into a rock band so he can win the earnings of an upcoming competition. It was just fun. With a lot of adult comedy in there that I wasn't expecting, which got a chuckle out of me consistently. And I remember wheezing towards the end. I think most will know what joke I'm referring to, but it's the one where all the parents are. Wink, wink. There was a lot of heart, which I appreciated. Just a very matured family film. It was great. I think one of the few things that kind of irked me was that there's this character that gets built up, and once we finally get Dewey interacting with this character, we get a different side of them. It kind of makes you sympathize with them and find out how they got here, and it's kind of unfortunate, but you kind of want to see where it goes, because it kind of feels like an arc is being built up here, or some kind of Chekhov's gun that'll be paid off in a later scene between this character and Dewey. And I was thinking we're gonna get some kind of payoff to this in a wholesome, nice way, but the movie kind of fizzles this character out and then just kind of has them there, but there's nothing that comes of this dynamic, and I don't know, I kind of felt like something should have happened towards the end. I'm not too sure. Regardless, I thought it was great. Just another great Jack Black film to the list. The Angry Birds movie 2. I heard a lot of praise for this movie going in. A lot of people said it was an improvement over the first film. Some people just said it was a good movie. So my expectations were a little bit higher than I initially would have thought. I thought the first movie was pretty good. Nothing special, but just a pretty good adaptation of the concept of the games, while adding its own original flair to varying results of quality. But it was a neat experiment, I'd say. Sequel, however, I feel like I've been led on. I watched it and I thought it was pretty darn bad. I think the only part of the movie I consistently enjoyed was just the pig characters, and that makes me now want a Bad Piggies movie, because like all of the stuff with the birds, that includes like the bird villains for this film, I did not enjoy it at all. I think there's one meme where Bomb eats dirt, and I laughed at that, but you know, I knew that before the film, because everyone would fucking share it on Twitter, so I already knew what the joke was, but like, besides that little goof. Yeah, no, I struggle to think of like one moment outside of the pigs where I'm like, that was pretty funny. Because it is a comedy, that's important. A lot of it is centered on jokes. Even the main conflict is just a setup for a joke, and it's not even a good one. It's like spoilers, I guess, warning. But like the main conflict is that the eagle and the bird lady that I am blanking on the name on because they were that forgettable as a villain. Like the idea is that this entire war thing that's going on is because of their breakup, but it's not actually because of their breakup, and it's like, just make it because of the why are you messing it up? Just do it. It's like, okay, I guess you want to be different or something. But like, yeah, no, the main conflict I just did not care for at all. I feel like I should have, because you know the birds and the pigs are teaming up to fight these random ass bird people, but like in the end I just did not care. I guess there was one funny joke where the piss in the bathroom and it goes everywhere. Like that was a funny piss joke, but I struggled to think of anything else. Yeah, it was a really disappointing movie. Like I feel like everyone's led me on and it's like just a prank, bro. It was actually shit. It's like, oh damn, the jokes on the, I don't know, maybe everyone just likes disgruntled bird and discount Sonic on crack. I did not care for the romance either between Red and what's her name? Don't remember. I don't even remember her name. That's how forgettable she was. It was something. Super Mario Bros. The movie. Not to be confused with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I watched this movie twice now, within like the span of 3 weeks of each other. First time was with my mom. We never saw it before. I tried watching it years ago, and I barely got past the church scene in the intro, so not very much. But you know, I tried rewatching it with my mom, and it was an interesting experience. And my takeaway at the end was, it wasn't awful like everyone says it is, but I don't think it's like spectacular either. It's in this weird middle ground of like, they did what they could at the time the movie was made. I respect that, and I think they did a lot of interesting things that to varying degrees was good and bad, but you know what, like for its time I respect it. And on the second watch I came away a little bit more positive of it because I had insight of how they made the movie, some of the background knowledge, and I ended up just respecting it more, and I had an even better time than I first saw it, and my opinion of the film changed. And this is a day before we watched the new movie, came out this year, so it was interesting to go from that to that, which I will talk about later in this. I think the movie isn't bad. I don't think it's spectacular, but I don't think it's mid. I think it's pretty good for its time, and I feel like it still kind of holds up. I think that's a hot take, but I'm seeing more people speak out that people liked it all along. You know what? Respect. That's brave. And I'm going to be brave too. I think it's a pretty darn good movie, and I think in some ways it's better than the new movie because they actually have the Mario plumbers interact for longer than like 15 minutes in the Mario Bros. Movie. Can you believe that? Wow. It's like that should be the default or some shit. It's crazy, right? And it's a shame that this movie never got the sequel. There was supposed to be a sequel webcomic continued by some of the writers, I believe, but they never got past like the fourth chapter and like 30 pages in, something like that. And it's a shame because they do some interesting stuff there, and there was one moment that I wasn't too fond of, but it's a nitpick and the good outweighs the bad there. I think it shows promise, and it's just a shame that it's not been updated in years, so I'm gonna assume it's basically dead at this point. But if you like the first movie, the original Mario Bros. Movie, you gotta check that webcomic out. It's online and it's free to read. Pretty neat. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Going into this, I thought it was gonna be overrated and kind of mid because everyone wouldn't shut the fuck about how good it was. And no, nobody was exaggerating or anything. It was just that good. I have nothing to add. You've probably heard how good of a movie it is, so I don't need to say anymore. It is probably one of the best films I've seen in a while. It came out sooner for some people, but it came out later here because it's in the UK, and like, I don't know why movies just come out later in some places. Like they did that with the Sonic film last year, and I had to not spoil it for my friends for 7 days because they lived in America, and I was in the UK where it dropped on April for like, for the stupid, why? But yeah, no, I have nothing to add on Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It is just as good as they say, and it is just amazing. A little cheesy. I think the Bear Goldilocks thing was kind of cheesy. Where it's like, ooh, I don't like it. Oh, I do like it, but it's too much, and oh, it's just right. A little bit too cheesy there, but that's not a negative. It's just a little corny, but I respect it. You know, staying true to the fairy tale. Great movie. I can't wait to see where they go from here with Shrek. I hope they don't don't disappoint. Neon Genesis Evangelion. Years ago, I tried to get into Neon Genesis Evangelion. It seemed like one of those anime that you have to watch to be an anime fan kind of thing. And while I don't think that is true anymore, like, you can watch whatever and just be like, I watched this one anime, it's pretty niche. And I liked it. Like, I think you can watch anything and be an anime fan now. Like, I don't stick with that mindset anymore. But felt like one of those things that I had to watch. And I got like, I think 18 episodes in or less. I'm foggy on the memory now, but I got like a decent chunk through. And for whatever reason, I just stopped. And I don't remember what it was, but I think I do now. Because recently I rewatched most of those episodes and then continued on with a friend, Lavia Ray. Go watch the channel with the podcasts I'm featured in. I'm gonna shill it since I've talked about shit that's in there. I'm gonna shill it. Go over there, subscribe to that guy. He's awesome. Anyway, we finished the rest of it, and I remembered why I had the issues that I did, why I left it. And it's because it just fell off. And I never got to the end. I got to like past halfway, where it started to get really edgy and just needlessly, not even edgy, but it started to get really depressing because the creator apparently had depression. And you can tell that seeped into the story itself because it just went nuts, and not even in like a good way. I love Gen Urobuchi. He has a way of making his dark stories just feel satisfying, where there's a reason for the pain, there's a reason for the punishment, there's a reason for these characters to be suffering. And maybe it's none of that, but it's not there for no reason. It's not purposeless, it's not for shock value, it fits in the story well. I can't name a single part that didn't feel just mean-spirited, besides the third Magica Madoka film that I'm going to pretend does not exist, because why would you want to ruin the first series' ending? What the fuck was that shit? And in most cases in his stories, there's this hopeful rainbow at the end. Not always the case, but that's most of the times. At least most of his works I've seen. But in Evangelion, it's just a misery torture porn fest, and it's just not fun in the slightest. It feels like some of the characters, when they have their hallucinogen mind fuckery, where they talk to the ghost illusion versions of how they perceive people bullshit, like where it feels like they're gonna have a character arc, like it doesn't go anywhere. Like Shinji's still Shinji, which is fine because Shinji's just your average boy and he's not perfect, and I don't know where the hate comes from Shinji. He is a very reasonable, grounded, realistic depiction of how someone would be in that situation. So fuck people who think Shinji's awful. You're an asshole. The only thing I really wanted of Shinji is to have a little bit more backbone. I mean, you see glimpses of this when he does argue with Asuka sometimes, but it just kind of becomes the rare exception and not the norm, and I wish it became the norm over time if he were to grow as a character, which unfortunately doesn't happen, and he just declines into a sadder, depressed, more miserable version of himself, which is realistic, but not the direction I wish they went. But like Asuka like begs for an arc in this show, and she never gets it, and that's just why she's such an awful bitch, and it feels like she should become nicer, but she doesn't, and it's awful. I don't like tsunderes anyway. They're like one of the most annoying tropey characters, unless you do them right, which is very rare. And I don't have any immediate examples unless I edit this later, but Asuka is just awful. Rei is such a nothing character because she only exists to just stand there. Little editor's note this time here, verbalized. I basically go on for like 3 minutes about how much of a nothing character Rei is, about how much she's a plank of wood and she only exists to sell Dakimakura pillows. So I'm gonna try and keep this as short and concise as possible. She literally adds nothing besides being another Ava pilot. I don't know, fucking waifu bait. Rei barely adds anything, and though there are glimmers of something there with her, they never go anywhere. There are like moments where she shows humanity and like some kind of glimmers of, hey, maybe she can grow as a person and become someone and not just like this emotionless robot, and they go nowhere. She just ends up going back to that silently, and it's just shit. That's what it is. And I think it says something when the version of Rei that's supposed to be a middle finger towards audiences that like slice of life anime. I don't know if that's true or a fan theory of like what the writer was going through. So apparently the writer hated his audience at one point because they only cared about like generic slice of life fun shows and like harem.
I don't know the full context, and I don't even know if that's true or not. It's something that I've heard. Maybe it's something I'll have to look into, but that I don't care enough to do that right now. Evangelion burnt me. But yeah, the Rei we see there is a fun character that I actually would want to spend time with, because the Rei we get in the show is just fucking boring.
Plank of wood with lost potential of what could have been. Just a cherry on the shit sandwich that is Rei's existence is that even the writer forgot she was even in the fucking show to begin with. And when he gave her that glimmer of hope that, wow, this character might be able to start to develop already, the writer immediately regretted it and cursed after the fact. And it's funny because after that episode, we see Rei going back to her boring, robotic, uninteresting, painful self. And it's like, my guy, why did you do this? You literally just shot yourself in the foot. Just keep moving forward. Stop. Such a shame.
So, wow, great job. Yay. I'll link that article below.
The first half of the show is just so good, and it's just a tragedy that the second half is just so bad. Because I feel like the second half should have been like this part where all the characters have been together for a while now, start to grow closer as friends, and I'm not asking for them to save the world by the end of the season, but at least just come together and grow as people. Wherever the ending goes, that's a different thing, but like it just spirals down into nothing, and it's just stupid. It's just a shame because you can see a lot of potential in this series, and it just feels uncapitalized and wasted for torture porn. And that leads me into the movie End of Evangelion. This movie is literally just torture porn. It is over an hour of just characters being killed and crying and drama and suffering. And it's just not fun. The animation is beautiful. That is literally the only reason why this isn't a 1 out of 10. It's because the animation is stunning until like the last 20 minutes, but we'll ignore that because the last, the previous part is just so good. But yeah, the animation is just visual eye candy, even if it's spent on characters being massacred. Going into this, I kind of had a feeling that there would be no happy ending. I've seen the memes of the Iron Lung Red Ocean shit. Current day reference, lol. So I kind of knew that everything would go bad, but it was just seeing how we got to that point. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm still kind of unsatisfied how we got to that point. If it were me and I was writing this, like if I had no choice, like, hey Derp, you gotta continue on from the last season. It's like, wait, what? I can't retcon all of this and just go back to the midpoint where it was a good show. It's like, nope, you gotta finish this grim dark shit now. It's like, fuck me, I guess. Yeah, it's like, you gotta make sure everyone dies at the end of something. It's like, my idea would be Shinji, Asuka, Rei, by this point, would have grown to become like good friends, have each other's backs, whatever. Like they've grown together and they've got each other's backs kind of thing. And this movie should have been their final stand as friends as they fight to save the world as best they can. Unfortunately, one by one being taken out, and maybe with Shinji being like the last one. And it's like this sad thing as he like looks at the sun or something and sees all the remains of his friends around him. And it's just like, I tried so hard kind of thing. It's like, I'm so sorry everyone. Like, just like this tragic final stand just to protect the world, and he fails. Like, it's still miserable, but like compared to what we got, I think that would have been not as shit. It would still be bad. I would not choose to continue on from that point. I would rather retcon all of it and go back. But if I had to, that would have been what I would have done. And what would you have done if you were familiar with Evangelion? Tell me below. My headcanon for this film is that, I know it's a cop-out cringe kind of like creepypasta bullshit take, but my headcanon for this entire film is that it takes place in Shinji's post-nut depression hallucination. Like, after the hospital scene, it's all in his head, and then he just wakes up in bed, like, the day later. Or maybe that's in his head, too. That's Lavry's take. It's stupid. It's such a stupid movie. It just shits all over those, like, first 12, 15 episodes. I'm trying to remember, but, you know, it's just a shame. I think Evangelion has such a cool concept and such a cool cast of characters and the world building, all this stuff, and it just wasted on such a grim, dark, boring slog of suffering. It's not even fun kind. Generabuchi could fix it. What's next on the movie list? Bullet Train. Bullet Train is a dumb, fun movie that I couldn't tell if it was amazing or really bad, which made it even better. I do not know how to describe this film, so I am gonna try my best to pitch it because I think it is a must-watch to most normies that just enjoy action junk. The energy of this film feels like some kind of Japanese 2000s game where the developers are like trying to imitate something from Western media and they don't quite know how, and turn it into like a video game, and like if that video game got adapted into a movie, like I do not know how to sell it, but that is how it feels watching this, and I don't know how. Maybe you'll see it when you watch it, but like I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy, but that's like the first thing that comes to mind when I watch this. I regret not seeing this in pictures. I remember seeing it advertised everywhere and I'm like, this looks kind of mid, I'm not gonna watch it, and I loved it on the TV, and I'm so sad I did not watch it in the cinemas now. The action is great, the characters are fun. There's one part towards the end where I'm like, that could have been executed better, but nevertheless, it is just through and through a great action movie with a lot of comedy. I wasn't expecting the amount of comedy that was in it, but the comedy was good. It's got the heart to it as well, which I respect, because I feel like this could have easily been a little bit of like an edgy, depressy kind of film with some of the directions it takes. But no, it has a lot of heart to it, and I really like that. There were a lot of twists, turns I didn't see coming, and a lot of just funny goofs because I don't know, the director just decided to throw something in for fun, and the fun it was. The plot following different assassins as they go into a train in Japan trying to grab this briefcase, but some of them have different motives, and it all spirals into this big intertwined mess of different factions fighting each other. It just gets so complicated and messy in it's such a fun way. Yeah, I loved it. It was great, and I regret not seeing this sooner. Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro Season 2. I plan to make an in-depth video on my thoughts on both Seasons 1 and 2, so I'm gonna save most of what I have to say for now, but the short version is, I loved Season 2, and I would recommend not too many, but if you are intrigued by the idea of a kind of weird dynamic turning into something special by the end, maybe give it time to watch throughout the first season. It might be hard to, but if you're into a romance, slice of life, comedy, and you could deal with a pretty bad first episode, which isn't comparable to the rest of the show, honestly, maybe even the second episode is a bit much, you are in for a really good cute romance when you get to the ends of season 1 and the whole of season 2. That is all I'm gonna say. It is just a great show, and I can't wait to hopefully make a pretty big video on my thoughts on this series. High Card. The moment I saw the trailer for this anime, I added it to my watch list and eagerly waited for that first episode to drop. And the anime that came was essentially Kingsman, the Secret Service meets JoJo Persona? Some kind of JoJo Persona thing. But instead of having stands or personas, they're cards that grant abilities. And the series follows a street boy called Finn Oldman that ends up getting tangled in this web of good guys, bad guys, and politics and stuff, and it's this huge mess, and it's just so thoroughly entertaining. There's also just a fun vibe about the whole thing. I think the intro could be better. The series follows this character that may as well be the Eggsy Gary equivalent from Kingsman. He's this orphan street boy that ends up getting wrapped into this big mess of different factions, all different desires and wants and needs, and all this conflict happens with fighting and infighting and stuff. And while it has all of these big events that happen, all this action, they have a lot of heart that is usually centered around the characters. And the series goes into a lot of directions that I wasn't expecting, but they were all like good directions. And they ended up getting really emotionally invested, which I wasn't expecting, because I thought this would just be a dumb fun action thing. And then I'm like, holy shit, I love these characters now, I want to see more of them. The cast is very lovable. Unfortunately, I think that a few of them don't get the right time to shine, and they're, I don't want to say relegated to background characters, but I swear a few of them really deserved like more time, because they don't feel, you've got secondary characters, you know, supporting characters that help the plot, but like I feel like some of the secondary characters needed more screen time and plot relevant things to do, because they just kind of felt like NPCs at points, which is a bit of a shame, because I don't want to name those ones. They are very cool and just fun. And they're even in like the intro and outro, so it's not like they're not important. At least it's not like the show doesn't recognize that they're important, but like I don't think they get the time to shine just yet. I wonder if that will change though, because we are gonna get a season 2, which I was not expecting straight after like the end of the episode of the finale. But oh boy, that was amazing to see. I mean, I struggle to think of complaints about the series. There was one part that I definitely didn't like, and I don't want to say it ruined the series, but it definitely put a damper note on it. And I think there was another thing later after this that also kind of made it tricky to enjoy it. One of the episodes has this big traumatic event, and it's like, oh shit, how are we gonna recover from this? Where are we gonna go from here? I don't want to give specifics. I just want to leave it at that. But the following episode just kind of brushes it off and then just moves on from it. And I'm like, what? We're just gonna move from that? That was a big thing. You can't just skip that. Like that, we need to slow down and talk about what just happened. And like, no, we gotta get the plot rolling. We gotta get the plot rolling. Gotta get the plot rolling. It's like, oh, that's a shame. That's literally a plate of character drama and emotional payoff and all this stuff, and then they just kind of brush it off and then put a plaster over it later. It's like, yeah, no, we did address it. It's like, you didn't do it well enough. It's not the same. I wanted more, and you just gave me the scraps, which I think was a shame. But in this series, that was just one bad exception of a great show, and I cannot wait to see where season 2 goes. I would definitely say, if you love action and anime, and the concept is just well enough on its own. I recommend, like, it's Kingsman, the Spies, basically, and they're all using cards to give them abilities, and they get in action with gangs and shit, and it's like, it's so cool. Watch the first episode. Please give it the first episode watch. If you are not convinced by the end of that first episode, oh my god, what are you doing? And that's all I have to say. Great series. Tomo-chan Is a Girl. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Tomo-chan Is a Girl is one of the best anime romance comedies I've seen, and I can't say why, which is really dumb, but it's kind of a spoiler. But it's basically an automatic recommendation must-watch, and I can't even say why. If you like romance comedies, if you like tomboys that are maybe a little bit easily flustered, maybe a dense himbo protagonist, and just a great supporting cast all around. No teasing bullshit, surprising amount of detailed animation and quality for a slice of life show. This anime is a must-watch. I know some of the romances will have there, but there's this kind of thing that makes it bad. Some people don't like My Dress Up Darling because it's kind of ecchi. I can't speak my personal view because I haven't watched it, but that's things I've heard secondhand. So, you know, if it's not true, my bad. That's just what I've heard. I'm not saying it is. It's just what people have said. And people don't like ecchi. Not everyone. There's an audience for it, and no shame to that audience. Like, more power to you. I envy you to be able to watch that. Komi-san has the worst character ever that rivals Mineta in terms of characters that deserve to be taken out back. Shikimori's not just a cutie, has a main love interest that is painfully boring and is almost kind of gross with how she's written, and just comes across exceptionally desperate for someone to give a shit about said character by flip-flopping personalities by design. And I can't think of anything like that with Tomo-chan, except for one thing. Yeah, I kinda lied, I'm sorry. Tomo-chan Is a Girl is great because the main two characters are absolutely lovable, and the supporting cast is also just absolutely great. This isn't like a new thing for romance, like anime, but for this one, I fell in love with the whole like supporting cast and the main two characters. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, no, this main character is kind of boring, or this one, or like these side characters are just a bunch of like one-note stereotypes, and I just don't care about this flavor of character kind of thing. Like, yeah. However, I think with Tomo-chan, they hit the right balance of every character, and it made them feel like characters, but it also made them feel like people. I don't know if I'm crazy saying that, but I don't know. I liked them. I thought they were really well done. The thing is, though, and this is going back to that book that I referred to before, spoiler warning, it's not a huge one. It's kind of, I gotta say it, it's really dumb. There's like two characters in the supporting cast, and they have like no build up to this, but there's a relationship between two characters that is really forced. It comes out of nowhere, like the writer wanted to just cram them together because, I don't know, they didn't want them to be a threat to the main two characters. Like, it's not uncommon for characters to exist in a show that are basically supposed to be like love rivals. It's not even just an anime thing, it's just, you know, general media stuff. So I wonder if maybe that was intentional. And the thing is, that part already could be like a, well, you know, it's a damper note, but like, you know, it's not too bad. The thing is, these two characters have a bond, I will say in big quotation. And at this point, I'm gonna be honest with you, I am so desensitized. I've watched so much anime that it's kind of numb for me. I'm like, oh Japan, oh silly you Japan, oh Japan, you know. So I'm like, yeah, at this point I might as well just get fucking used to it. But if you're not at that point yet, yeah, I can see people being like, it was really good, but then this happened and it was awful. It's like, yeah, no, it's just like 1% of the show, but you know, if you are really that petty, maybe don't watch it. Otherwise, you know, if you have the ability to look over that part, or maybe you just don't care, maybe you're all for it. I don't know, people are all over the place in the anime sphere.
Oz, you should go down to Tassie. Hands down the best state in Oz. Even has added benefits of being the incest state. Lol. Well, that's just reason to avoid it, surely. Guys, I'm not the incest guy. Guys, stop that. Stop that now. Guys, please, I already like anime incest.
If you're on one side, check it out. If you're on the other, where you will not like it, that part of it, even if it is a minuscule, I don't want to say blink and you miss it, but it's not the focus. It is not the focus. Yeah, maybe just skip it, unfortunately. But I would definitely say, highly would recommend, if you can, look over it, or you just don't care, or you might be into it. I also just want to say the OP is just so good. Oh, that OP. Love it. And I love that ending. The ending's sang by the 3 main girls, by the way. And I believe the blonde girl, the Japanese voice actor, actually plays the dubbed version of the girl, which is cool. I don't think that's too common, so it's nice to see that. I hope that becomes more common. If, you know, there's more English Japanese like voice actors. Like, I do like that. So like, even if you watch the dubbed, you still get like the same voice. It's neat. I think it's neat. Buddy Daddies. I feel like Buddy Daddies blew up more than I thought it wouldn't, so I'm not really sure if I should spend as much time on this one as I have with prior topics. So I'm gonna just say what I think needs to be said and then just kind of move on. Buddy Daddies is not Spy X Family. People are calling it like, oh, it's a clone. It's like, it's not. It's got similar aspects, it's got similar elements, but they're all kind of surface level observations. When you actually get down to it and look at the puzzle pieces and form them together, they don't make the same show. The child in this series actually feels like a child and not anime character child. I know that sounds like, wait, the fuck are you smoking kind of thing, but like, you know what I'm talking about. Like, Anya feels like a bit of an idiot, but like, she has like that anime thing. You're not like really like what a child would be sort of thing. But Mercury is just fully unaware, innocent, bright-eyed, 100% child. And I used to think Anya was adorable, but now I'm sorry, like, Mercury is infinitely more adorable in the time we get to spend time with her. I think Buddy Daddies got a bad rep when it first dropped because of those surface level observations. Hell, even I made them. I'm like, oh, it's the gay Spy X Family, and it's not the gay Spy X Family, nor is it's not gay, nor is it Spy X Family. You can ship the 2 main characters, and that's fine. I'm not saying you can't do that, but like, I do not think the creators were going for that direction with this show, and I'm kind of disappointed by that because I kind of wish they did go in that direction, but it's just 2 guys basically just babysitting and then turning that into a, well, I guess we'll adopt her. And then, yeah, I'm not saying that's a bad thing with the show. I'm just like, I would have liked it if they did become a romantic couple, but I don't really mind because they were great as buddies anyway. Buddy Daddies, like, is a funny name. An actual issue I do have with the show though is that they introduce a lot of things and they barely have time to flesh them out, so they kind of just drop something on you in one episode, move on to the next, and then introduce a new thing, and then move on to the next and introduce a new thing. And I really wish the series got like 2 seasons minimum, because honestly I could push for a 3rd. And I'm not saying like I want them to continue from where they left off in the ending. I just wish it was more drawn out and it had time to flesh elements out, and we got more time to spend with Mercury and the family, but also delve deeper into the backstories of these characters, because I feel like they try to cram a lot in, and sometimes it comes at the consequences of pacing and story structure and how things form together, and kind of becomes a little bit of a mess towards the third act, where they do a thing with Miri and another character, and they've just reintroduced this character. They appeared one episode towards the start, and now we see them again, and something happens, and it's like, wait, what? Really? Oh, I guess we're moving on now. But what was the point of that even? It's like, all right. It just felt really mishandled, and I think it could have been done better. Not saying that ruined the show, but it did dunk a point down for me, unfortunately. And that's my perspective. I would recommend Buddy Daddies to anime watchers. Even if you've seen Spy X Family, I guarantee you will get something different out of this. It is not one-to-one with Spy X Family. It is a different experience. You might feel some similarities, but it is a different way of handling the ideas. Spies in Disguise was a really mediocre film, and I literally have nothing to say about it. It was a movie I watched and then promptly moved on from. I felt nothing. What's next? Looney Tunes back in action. I like Space Jam. I have seen some Looney Tunes cartoons. I am not a big Looney Tunes fan. When I heard about this movie with Brendan Fraser in it, I kind of wanted to check it out. So when I sat down to watch it, I was kind of hoping that it would be a fun ride, all things considered. And while I don't think I hated the movie, I don't even think I really disliked it. I just felt that it wasn't all too good. It didn't feel like a Looney Tunes movie at times. It felt like a spy film that someone came in and was like, hey, this won't sell, so cram all the references in. You need to make Bugs and Daffy sidekicks, and you need to make a bunch of meta jokes and stuff. So you got like this spy plot about like this dude and his dad and this girl as they cross the world, and there's just a bunch of Looney Tunes stuff in it, and it just didn't work for me. Maybe if I were a fan, I'd be like, ooh, I know what that is, like, you know, that kind of thing. Like, I remember all the dangling keychains, you know. But because I'm not a fan, I did not have any of that. It wasn't bad, but I'm just kind of disappointed. And I don't even know if Looney Tunes fans would enjoy it, because there's just so much of the human plot that isn't too interesting. I don't know. It was just hard to get into this movie. I'm just disappointed. I'm just disappointed, all things considered. I thought it was gonna be kind of fun, and I just kind of left like, oh, okay, that was the thing. Alvin and the Chipmunks, the road trip. I have fond memories of the first film, even the second film. Third film, kind of shit. By the time the fourth film dropped, I was way too like in my phase of, oh, anything animated is for babies, and I'm edgy now. So I just never got around to watching it, even like when it was out of cinemas and was on the TV, but I just never found the time to actually watch it. And I kept hearing online like, oh, this is the best one, or this is the least awful, and I just didn't have the intrigue to get around to watching it for myself until more recently, where I finally got around to watching it, and lo and behold, it was actually really good. I said the first two films were pretty good. I had fond memories of them. I still think they hold up, even if they are incredibly corny and cheesy and lowest common denominator baby brain shit for like a good chunk of the scripts. And some of that does apply to this one, but I don't know. Something really resonated with me with this one, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was just a fun, goofy, silly movie with a really funny villain. Where, spoilers, the villain is this dude got dumped because his wife didn't like his hyperfixation that was Alvin and the Chipmunks, and it's like, that's awful. and he goes full psycho when he meets like the Chipmunks later in the film. It's like, this is what you did to me. Great villain. I didn't think they'd be able to compete with the last villain, but they somehow pulled it off. And the plot is pretty nice. I don't want to say too much about it, because on the off chance someone's like, alright, I will give it a shot, because I don't have a weird bias against family films. The plot is pretty heartfelt. I enjoyed it, and I thought it was cute. Of course, I do have issues with the fact that it is just like painfully, look guys, pop, look how hip we are, and there's just a bunch of pop songs and they're all just cringe. It was hard not to sit through all of those high-pitched, just dance song shit scenes. I eventually decided to fast forward through them. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna admit that. Maybe that takes away some credibility, but it's Alvin the Chipmunks. I had to skip it. It was way too much. But yeah, everything besides those, it was great. I enjoyed it. Unironically, this isn't like a /J thing. I'm being serious. High note to end on for the Alvin movies.
The Super Mario Brothers movie, not to be confused with, the one before. I was on a podcast. If you want to hear my full in-depth thoughts, another link in the description below. Go listen to it. I rant a lot. You might enjoy it, or you might hate it if you love this movie. Give a short, too long, didn't read. The art style of the film was really well done. A lot of the voice actors did a really good job, which I was surprised by considering the initial castings. Although, going in, I knew Jack Black was going to be my favorite, and he was, as per usual. He did a great job as Bowser, for real. And I could say nice things for the rest of the cast as well. The plot of the movie is painfully non-existent, and it really feels like a first draft. I swear the plot relies so hard on convenience and contrivance just to get shit going. And there's so little breathing room that nothing ever gets fleshed out or expanded upon. And I know there's a lot of people saying like, it's a Mario movie, why do you want to give a shit about the world building and the characters? It's a dumb Mario movie. It's like, motherfucker, you're a Mario fan, you love those RPGs. You want more story and shit. Don't you dare now flip the dime, you hypocrite. Ugh. I'm not as passionate of a Mario fan as I am a Sonic fan, but I really did want the Mario movie to be better than it was. I feel disappointed because I think there's a lot of potential in the Mario universe. And I don't know if it sounds childish, but I really did want like something better than what we got. With it, I can't help but be a bit disappointed, but I'm happy for those that did enjoy it, considering Mario fans didn't really enjoy the movie they got in the 80s. I don't really blame them because it's not representative of the brand, but I don't know, I think this movie is way too safe that it ends up just being kind of indirectly insulting to the audience, but hopefully the sequel will be better. Again, want to hear my full thoughts? I nitpick nearly every little scene in the description. And you also get to other people roast it. Big time. For real. Recreators is fucking awesome. It is not perfect, but by golly gee, god damn it, this is probably one of the best anime I've seen. If you are an anime fan, like I'm talking, you've seen one anime per genre minimum, but maybe even more, and you know like all the tropes, all the characters, all the kinds of plots and action scene, like all the stuffs. This is just like a big celebration of that in a way, and it feels like a must watch, especially if you're into Fate, because it's like, what if we celebrated anime and it was also done in a Fate Holy War style of plot? And that alone is just such a goofy premise that you need to just check it out just to see what the hell that even means. To give a very light spoiler of how the show is, it's basically about a bunch of fictional characters in a universe being brought into the real world. They're all from different genres. They end up having to fight because there's a bad character that wants to end the world. The creators of those fictional characters have to get involved, and it's just so interesting, and they do a lot of cool stuff, and it's so good. Trust me, though I've just shared quite a bit, that's like scratching the tip of the iceberg in terms of what actually happens in the show. It is a must recommend, and it is so good. I have issues with it though. I want to spoil them because I kind of need a vent about it, but I'm going to say spoilers because I'm going to spoil the ending, or at least something that happens towards the end. So I'm going to have a timestamp on screen, probably. Skip to whatever's on screen or whatever the next time code is below. Be wary, because I'm gonna talk about the plot, and it's the big one. Alright, been one. Two things. One, I'm so sad that the magical girl died so early in the show. You know, in Fate Zero, the characters don't even die really until like the second half. Like, I know Assassin dies relatively early, but like, I don't know. The way they killed off the magical girl in the show, I know it's supposed to be like a big shocking moment, but I feel like she should have been kept in longer, especially with the interactions lost because she's just ripped out so early on. And I know it's because they replace her later on with a new girl, but I don't know, it just bothered me because I couldn't help but just think of the wasted potential that character could have brought in terms of character interactions and just like story and expanding on the creations and creator kind of side of things. Like, we never get a scene between the magical girl and her creator, or we don't really get too much about her thoughts about her creator. At least I felt like I didn't. I wanted more about that. Not to mention, I feel like she should have interacted with the Evangelion guy, especially how he's all about, like, short girls. I'm pretty sure it's like a line he says towards, like, the early part. And I'm like, oh, he's gonna interact with the magical. No, we never see a scene of them interacting. I'm like, really? I just kind of bugged me that they just replaced her later on with a kind of funny character. She's like from an eroge. I'm pretty sure that's the idea. And yeah, she's pretty funny. I think they do it pretty tastefully, but I'm not opposed to, like, the death, because I was expecting people to die in this. I was expecting more to die, to be honest, and not the ones that did die. There were a few deaths in this show that I was caught off by, so props to the writer. Did not expect them to go the way they did with certain aspects.
Besides that, there was one other thing that I didn't like, and that was the Altair Setsuna scene. The way it goes is that Altair and Setsuna basically end up going to another dimension, and it's not the real Setsuna, it's like another version. You'll know if you would have seen it. He goes to like another dimension where they can just live forever in infinite and make stories for people and make people to make stories forever and ever. I think it was supposed to be a happy ending, but the way it comes across, it almost comes off like twisted Lovecraftian mess. It just did not translate at all. It ended up feeling really weird. Like, I'm like, I feel like this should be happy, but I just don't. What the fuck is this? The way I thought it was gonna go is that I thought Setsuna would get hit by the train, and then there would be some kind of message with, like, moving forward and changing for the better, growing as a person kind of thing, doing the right thing. It's like honor her wishes and move forward, something like that. But what they went with was just messed up. I kind of wish they both got hit by the train. Like, that would be the alternative, and it's dark up, but, like, the way they went, I just, what the fuck? While I'm talking about Altair for a moment, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of bummed out that Sota never really interacts with Altair at all throughout, like, the show. Altair sees him at the start and gives him this look, like she recognizes him, and I'm like, oh shit, what does this mean? And then as the series goes on, I'm like, wait, could Sota be her creator? That's not it though. He's responsible for Setsuna's death by ghosting her, and I'm gonna assume, and basically it's inferred that Altair kind of knew this and is pissed at Sota and the world by extension, but I don't know. I kind of wish that Sota was partially responsible for her creation. Like, he and Setsuna did a drawing together and did, like, the lore for her. They're both basically, like, the father and mother of the character in a way. So then there would be more of a personal connection to the character besides it just being like, oh yeah, it's the character of my dead friend, and she just hates me because I ghosted her. Because nothing comes of it, and I feel like something was supposed to come of it. I don't know, maybe I'm reaching, but I don't know. I would have liked there to be just more there than what was actually there. I don't think what they did was too well done, and what they did do was just not too interesting, at least for me. But these are all small things that don't ruin the show, but for me personally, don't down a point. Ningen Fushin. I am making a video on this. It will probably be 40 minutes long. I'm hoping minimum it will be out by the end of June, if not sometime July. It was supposed to come out by April, and now it's not there yet, so things. It's my first big edited video, and I'm hoping it will actually be done soon, and I hope it releases and doesn't get taken down. I'm doing my best to make sure it gets around copyright, but we'll hopefully see how things work out. Anyway, the too long don't read version until you hear my full thoughts is that Ningen Fushin is a show that needed better animation that a studio could not deliver. It has great characters with backstories that aren't fully developed.
The side characters have a lot of potential to play off the main cast, with appealing designs and interesting connections. That goes to waste, as with one exception, they're all dropped or pushed to the side.
And has a lot of interesting plots that are kind of on the back burner of the show, until it has this really meh end. But to say something nice, there's a lot of fun plots with a lot of neat character interactions and stories, and there's a lot of heartfelt emotional beats and fun drama in it. Although it's not too much of a drama, it's very light, but there's a tiny bit. I think it's supposed to be a comedy, but it definitely isn't too funny. There's just the occasional chuckle, at least from me. I don't know if I can recommend it, but if the premise of a bunch of unfortunate, betrayed / unlucky individuals coming together to form a little team where they don't trust humanity, they only barely trust each other, and very barely. Put a big asterisk on those. Working with each other to complete quests and save the day and help people. Maybe give it a watch. The issue is the first episode is kind of meh because it's just introducing the characters and they don't do a great job with 2 of them, minus 1. And then the second episode is basically a soft training arc, and then episode 3 is another character introduction because they saved the backstory for episode 3, and episode 4 is where shit starts to get going. And then by the end of the episode, they have another character to introduce, and they don't really introduce them well. They just kind of like, here they are. And it doesn't feel like the show actually gets going until episode 5. So if you can slog through those first 4 episodes on like 2 times speed, and if you actually enjoy them, maybe keep going. But yeah, you cannot skip to episode 5 because you need those character introductions and the growth that comes with some of the scenes. It's hard to recommend, but I will say it's not a bad show, but nor is it a particularly great one. I have yet to read the manga. I'm gonna do it for the video, but I wonder if the manga is better than the anime, considering how much the art gets kind of fucked by the animators not doing the best they probably can, though they haven't really done much, and I don't think they're a great big studio compared to others. So honestly, maybe it is their best and they're just not as great as others. I'm gonna end now before I end up being really mean. I think I already have. Ruby Volume 9. I have nothing positive to say about this one. It was barely funny, and when I say funny, I refer to funny as The Room kind of funny, where it's so bad it's good. Because this shit is not unironically good. It is funny because of how bad it is, but it is not good at all. It is just amazing how much this corporation continues to just make more of this show and continue to not improve, and in ways do worse than before. It really is just, I don't know how it's still going on when I don't know how this series is still going on when their leaders are pedophiles and they've got transphobes in their staff and they're firing people left and right all the fucking time and literally grasping at straws in like the community fan artists and fan animators just to get people to work on their shit and release it. It's, oh god, I genuinely do wonder how long they can keep this shit up for. Rooster Teeth is really a shadow of its former self. And the last thing I watched for April was Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Going into this, I thought it was an action movie. I did not know it was a comedy. That being said, I did not mind at all because this movie was really funny, like to a surprising degree. I feel like every scene left me laughing or chuckling. I struggle to think of any bad moments. I think towards the end, there's like one scene we should have done this again because it doesn't hit as hard now, and I'm not going to refer to what that is, but maybe people who've seen the movie might have an idea as to what I'm referring to. But besides that, little nitpick, it's not even a flaw. This is surprisingly really good. I was expecting it to be kind of mid, but fun, you know, fun action mid, but it was just a fun ride through and through that was amazing, and it is a must watch. Doesn't matter if you just like fantasy films, fantasy genre stuff, it is a must watch. That's everything I've seen from January to April. I was supposed to include May, but this shit's gone on for longer than I expected, and I'm trying to do something else as well, so I'm gonna have to turn this into a multi-parter. I don't think I'm gonna make this into a monthly thing, because I've not released anything for a while now, so hopefully this will fill the gap of content from nothing to something, however long this shit takes. Until next time, see ya.